I think people are taken aback by how beautiful Vancouver actually is.
We have incredible scenic beauty. We have the ocean, we have the mountains. You can actually surf.
Big trees, big mountains, like bigness, exploration.
People are always interested in what's new, what's different, what's the next thing, you know, how can we evolve, how can we change things, etc.
In general, like the West Coast, people are like open. It's just the ground's already set for this sort of thing to happen.
People who come for this, who make it a destination, they work hard so they have time to play hard, and when they're done playing hard, they like to party hard.
I, as well as a lot of people, are super excited about what's happening in Vancouver right now.
I think that there was just from the beginning a love of bass music. You know, there's always kind of been that out here, and I think that it's just kind of built on itself.
Finally, a genre that like a snowboarder, a hippie, and a lumberjack can all rave to together.
When it comes to dance music, like, you really get it from bass music. It's just raw. People get into it, they dance, they don't really care too much.
Bass music isn't going anywhere. It's such a fundamental part of the identity of the dance music scene in Vancouver and in BC in general.
Yeah, I think this scene has grown a ton. The moment I noticed was sort of when I couldn't keep up with the amount of producers that are now coming out of here. Like when you start losing track, that's when you know the scene is doing well.
I had some friends in Ontario say, "You're thinking of moving to Vancouver?" Some DJ buddies. And they said, "Good luck, man." Because relatively, we're known as being somewhat sleepy.
You know, you may have heard No Fun City. People throw that around as an identity for Vancouver.
So I found it was actually quite rich, and the scene there is incredible.
The collaboration here, that people want to work together, and it's not about like, oh, I want this big piece of the pie. People are willing to share and help promote their friends and like elevate the community.
It has this pioneer spirit, and I think that has allowed it to have a different musical landscape.
It's such a destination city for people from all over the world. I think the unique perspective is just mixing of all the cultures plus mixing of where the people come from themselves, you know? I think that really leads to some interesting and more multicultural influences, you know, than just being so regional like a lot of other scenes have become.
This was circa about 2006 that all these little sort of micro movements were kind of happening and coalescing. I remember I was DJing and going to all these parties, but on the other side of town there were these other parties with the LIGHTA guys, and they were playing grime out of the UK, and eventually the grime started evolving into what we call dubstep.
But yeah, we were throwing a bunch of parties and just slowly collected members. There was a thing about each member being multifaceted in a particular way, so, you know, we could all support each other and keep it in-house, as it were.
Music got really interesting, basically, and we were all doing something that wasn't happening in clubs.
A new sort of wave sort of started at that point. It was a good way to kind of bring together the region.
I think what really shaped the early days of LIGHTA and what made LIGHTA strong was Michael Redd doing the dub forums parties.
That was the first place I heard like quote unquote dubstep, was like those early dub forums parties and like crazy experimental dub.
Simultaneously there were different crews in Calgary and in Vancouver and in Victoria and in Seattle and in Portland that were all, they seemed to get inspired at the same time to move in that direction.
All these crews working cooperatively were never exclusive. It was always just about like, hey, this is what we're doing, come on in, check it out.
I feel like the quality of music just dictates everything. Who ends up being successful are the people who are pushing the music forward.
All of it all converged when a guy named FELIX came along. That was really the kind of eureka moment for us, and dubstep really evolved from being that subversive sort of UK subculture into this full-blown like phenomenon that really was the precursor to us at Blueprint being like, hey, well, this is really turning into something big. How do we take those elements and create brands and parties out of them?
There's Blueprint, which are kind of like they're just the masters of the club scene here.
They do a really great job at nurturing artists from the beginning and then kind of supporting them as they grow. And especially with their local artists, I think like having a company like that that's as successful as Blueprint, like sticking their kind of neck out for you like as you grow, that's really essential to any career.
As responsible promoters, we're always trying to find new exciting things because that's what dance music's about. You know, we live this every day. You know, when you live it, you're always listening, you're talking to people, you're always trying to find stuff that excites you. So we always look for that. We love the stories of, you know, getting Skrillex for the first time or Deadmau5 or whoever, all these guys that are now massive.
And we've seen that consistently, but you know, everything's growing beyond, I think, what anyone could have imagined.
Vancouver is one of the priciest housing and land and real estate markets apparently in the world right now. So that makes it very difficult on people in the arts and culture.
You know, the cost of living is a constant worry, so if you're an artist and you're focusing on your craft, odds are, you know, you've got a day job and you've got, you know, all these extra expenses that, say, if you were living in Montreal, you wouldn't have, or if you were in Toronto, you wouldn't necessarily have, or they wouldn't be as much of a worry. We've bred a lot of talented people, but so few of them end up actually staying here, and the ones that do stay here are like beyond invested, you know what I mean?
So I guess my dream would be for the city itself to build a new sort of creative economy, maybe more artist housing, and just foster this creative collective and this talent that I've seen growing, but you know, is fighting 100% against living conditions.
But at the same time, would their music and would what they're doing be as good if, you know, the odds weren't against them and they really had to fight for their place?
The community here is incredibly strong, and the respect that we all have for each other as artists is paramount.
That influences the festival culture because really festivals are all about bringing these people together who are already working on building these scenes and providing an outlet where everyone can share their creativity and ideas. I'm sure that Shambhala was a big motivating factor in all of those crews getting started in the first place.
Like a lot of connections are made here and a lot of people are inspired by this type of event.
I think what's come out of this festival is it's expanded to a culture and a community outside of it.
And they've definitely created an environment for bass heads.